Welcome to the Hair Notes podcast. I am your host, Maxine Green, owner and master stylist at Curly Dimension Salon. This podcast was created to educate and motivate you on how to properly care for your natural curly hair. Every week, a new episode will drop. So grab a notepad and pen, pull up a chair, and let's have a chat. Let's get into today's episode. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Hair Notes podcast. I'm your host, Maxine Green. And on today's episode, I want to talk to you about I want to ask you the question, are you stressing your hair out? All right, let me explain what I mean. Are you stressing your hair out by how you're detangling your hair? So, this is a question, of course. Once again, as a regular stylist behind a chair 5 days a week, I get the question, how should I be detangling my hair at home? In the instance that I am unable to secure an appointment with you, how should I wash my hair and how should I detangle my hair? So let's address the part of you washing your hair. So I know so often, so many of us, well, I want to go back for a second, right? So coming off of COVID, once I return, and I'm sure a lot of stylists can relate to this, once we returned back into the salon, there were so many curly girls who it was kind of like a man down situation, right? And so if you know what I mean, you can almost agree instantly, right? So many clients came back into the salon with hair that has not been washed in 3 months, or they washed it but didn't detangled. And so what they did to save time or to not be bothered, they simply put it up in one or just left it. But even after COVID, they kept doing that. Or prior to COVID, they kept doing that, right? So the question that I posed earlier, are you stressing your hair out? I really want to know, what is your steps? What are your steps that you are taking to detangle your hair with ease? And what are the steps and how frequently are you detangling your hair? Let's say that you are in between hair appointments and you can't get to your client or your stylist, right? How frequently are you washing your hair? Are you waiting until the next appointment, or are you washing your hair in between, in the meantime until you get an appointment? Well, if you are washing your hair, here are some tips that I want you, or here are some guidelines that I would like you to follow, or I hope that you follow to help ease the stress of detangling. So many curly girls, this is their the catalyst for them, right? They prefer not to detangle because it takes too much time. They lose too much hair, and or they're not sure if they're doing it properly. So let me walk you through just a few things that I think you should think about when it's your wash day. So let's say you got to your conditioner and you're now going to detangle. I always encourage the curly clients to detangle with the conditioner in the hair. Make sure that your hair is sopping wet, like super wet. So, meaning if you are doing your detangling in the shower, I would say if you have, let me dial it back a bit. Don't make wash day the day of you're trying to get your hair done or the day of a function. Do wash day on the day that you have time to properly detangle your hair, right? So on wash day, on your conditioner, at the conditioner step, fully endoused your hair with conditioner. And I know that if you have a lot of hair, this may not seem feasible. So in this instance, I will say use your judgment and separate your hair in sections and detangle that way. And what I want you to do is when the hair is really, really wet with water, and conditioner, that point it should be really easy for you to comb it through or detangle, starting from the bottom up. Now, what it does is it's going to reduce the tension that you put on your scalp, which ultimately will reduce breakage. So, again, I want you to really cover your hair or saturate your hair really well with deep treatment or conditioner of your choice. Really make sure your conditioner is very hydrating, right? Because if it's super hydrating, it's going to make it easier for you to work through or navigate through your detangling process. And also detangle with a wide tooth comb, or you can use your fingers if a wide tooth comb is too much tension for you. I want you to be really mindful of the tension in which you're applying to detangling your hair. If you are constantly ripping through or thugging on or pulling too hard on the hair, you're going to find you're going to lose a lot more hair than you would like. And so what I find that curly girls who are often seeing a lot of breakage during their detangling process, in their minds, they think that their hair is not healthy or their hair is breaking too much. When I ask them to repeat or show me the motion in which they're detangling, I always get, no, you have to do it a little bit more gentle. And then I get, well, I don't have time for that. So then don't do it. That's where you have to keep up with your hair appointments. Now, I know, guys, I know some of you are saying, well, I can't get an appointment or I can't get into the salon as frequently as I would like. Then in this case, in order for you to have beautiful, manageable, healthy hair, you have to take the time. Nothing that you do should be a rushed or field rushed in regards to your hair. Your hair will suffer at the cost of you being rushed or at the cost of you rushing through your detangling process. So, just to recap, make sure your hair is sopping wet, dripping with lots of water, saturated really well with a deep treatment or a very hydrating conditioner. If you have a lot of hair, I will say be mindful or use your judgment, section off your hair, detangle from the bottom up. Hold your hair at mid shaft and detangle at the ends first and then work your way up. That's going to not only reduce the tension on your scalp, but it's also going to reduce the amount of hair that you additionally lose, right? Or you ultimately see. Now, I want to say this for a second, right? You will lose hair. That is normal. But losing a significant amount of hair, you want to kind of keep an eye on that or be mindful, right? Or keep a note, a mental note to yourself, how much hair you're using, and be sure to kind of let your stylist know that you're experiencing a lot more breakage than normal or you've seen a lot more shedding. And is this, well, let me say this. If it's shedding, it's just normal shedding that's coming out, then that's normal, right? But how can you gauge what's normal from what's not normal? Shedding, you will experience a little bit of breakage or a little bit of shedding with your curly hair. In particular, times when it's time for a trim or you need to make sure that or your hair is a little dry and it's dehydrated and you're pulling too much on it or it's too much stress that's being put on the hair, so then you'll experience a lot more breakage or a little breakage. You'll also see breakage when you take a protective style out of the hair, such as braids or anything of that nature. Once the hair has been like completely covered up or completely braided down, and when you go to take the braids out, you'll see a little bit of breakage, and that's pretty normal. So, are you stressing your hair out? I know some curly girls will be like, well, yeah, I'm actually just ripping through my hair because I don't have time. When you find, if your if your desire is to have length, then the idea of ripping through it is not gonna help you. It's only gonna take out too much hair, and it's only gonna rip through strands of the hair that is going to create even that much more breakage. Because the other thing I want you to keep in mind, oftentimes when you see breakage, if the breakage is coming from the ends, which means dead hair or natural, that's the natural process of things should be the hair breaking from the ends. That's the dead hair. But when you start to see hair coming out from the roots and you're seeing longer strands, that's an alert. That's an alarm for you to say, okay, maybe I'm detangling a little bit too abrasive. Maybe I am using too much pressure or applying too much pressure with my detangler or how I'm detangling. And so now I need to take my time and really go back and just detangle. So wash day should be really about you being mindful or being present of how you're detangling, the motion in which you're using, and how much product you're using on the hair, the tools in which you're using. Now, let's talk about tools for a second. I know too often so many of us use a bristle boar brush, like a denim brush, to detangle our hair. I would strongly discourage that or strongly encourage you not to use a denim brush to detangle your hair. A few reasons why. The bristles are a little too abrasive. And denim brush, it's a great tool, just not good to detangle your curly hair with, right? And I know a lot of curly girls use it to kind of give them a little bit more tighter curls or to comb through their curls so that the hair will look a lot more uniform. I agree, and then I don't agree. I agree if you need clustered or you need your curls to look plumped and clustered together, then it gives you that finished look as long as you're not constantly going through that motion with the denim brush. But if you are using the denim brush to detangle on your wash day and that's all you're using, then you essentially know that you're ripping through the strands of the curls. And you're breaking the hair strands down a little bit too much for me, right? Or a little too much, so that you're going to experience a lot more breakage than you would like. So I really want you guys to be mindful of how, not only how are you detangling, what tools are you using, and how quickly are you working through the hair, right? How saturated is your hair with product? How saturated is your hair with water? That makes the hair a lot more, it makes for the slip to be a lot better for you. So you ultimately have to kind of pay attention to those things, right? In order for you to get less breakage, you just have to be mindful of where you are, right? Just be mindful of how you're doing your detangling. And then be mindful of the tools that you're using to detangle, right? So many curly girls would walk me through their hair routine during or between appointments when they are unable to secure an appointment, or even if it's been a while. I often ask them, so how frequently are you detangling? And then I get the answer, I only detangle once a month, or I only detangle once every 2 months. So then how often are you washing your hair? Now, if you tell me that you were detangling once a month, but you're washing every 2 weeks, then I have an issue with that, right? And I'm almost asking you, so you're not detangling every time you wash? Because when you don't detangle each time you wash your hair, what you're doing essentially is you're just styling your hair exactly where it was before. You're not allowing the products to work through from the shaft, from the roots of the hair to the strands to the end of the hair, right? To the end of the hair strand. You're not allowing that product to fully mask or fully give you that hydration that you're going to need from roots to ends. So everything stops right at the mid shaft for you, right? Because you're only going so far and then you kind of give up. If you are not taking the time to properly detangle your hair now, or within 2 weeks or within 3 weeks. Going for, or let's say going 30 days, going 60 days without washing, or even if you wash but don't detangle, going 60 days without detangling, or even if it's a 30-day stretch, is not healthy for your hair, and it will not help you when the time comes for you to actually wash and detangle the hair. Do you get what I mean? So now when you go to wash your hair after 30 days, and the minute water hits your hair is now tangled. Or if your hair is not tangled, you'll find that it makes it a little bit harder to work through. But let's say your hair is super tangled. Let's say your hair is super tangled from not washing it quickly, or from washing and just putting it up in a ponytail. Let's say your hair is tangled, because I've seen those curly girls. I've seen curly girls who have never, or who has not washed their hair, or who have washed their hair but has not detangled, and only wears their hair in a ponytail for 6 months. Your hair becomes a matted ball in the center of the hair, and at this point, you can't, the only option is to cut it out or sit for hours combing through that knot, detangling, which not only can be costly to you as the client, but can be very time consuming to the stylist, because we didn't factor in 5 hours of detangling your hair because you decided that you didn't want to detangle within a time frame or within a timely manner. So I want to tell you, or I want to talk to you about when you don't detangle within 30 days, or let's say you've gone 3 months or even 30 days, because to me, 30 days is such a long time to not detangle your hair. 30 days is a long time not to wash your scalp. 30 days is a long time to not properly comb through your hair. That's such a long time. Now, I understand, let's say you have a protective style, that's okay, because your hair is kind of covered, right? Or it's braided, right? It's in a resting state. But if you wear your hair out and your hair is natural and it's natural curly way, then you want to wash, hydrate, detangle, and then repeat, right? If we are doing wash, moisturize our faces, then why we don't wash, hydrate, detangle, and style our hair? It's part of self-care. It's part of the upkeep, right? So you always want to take your time when you're detangling. You don't want to lose too much hair when you are detangling, during your detangling process. A little bit of hair is normal. That is the normal process, or that is the normal way or growth with the hair. But to have detangling, or to have severe breakage from you detangling, or you not detangling within a timely manner, that's not cool. And if your desire is to have beautiful, healthy hair or beautiful, long hair, then the idea of you waiting so long to detangle will only prolong that desired, right? You want to detangle, wash and detangle your hair within a timely manner, and be mindful of your tools. My recommendation is a wide tooth comb, a really wide tooth comb, or you can use your fingers. Now, if your fingers are, your hair is too long or too thick in density, and your fingers just won't work, I recommend that you use a wide tooth comb at that point, right? Make sure the hair is saturated with water. Make sure it's super saturated with conditioner, and then you go in and detangle from the bottom up. But don't wash your hair and keep it in a ponytail or a protective style, or you just simply put it in one just to kind of save you time because you don't want to be bothered. Then think about the next time you go to wash your hair and now your hair is detangled, Or then you go to the salon and your hair is detangled, or your hair is matted, not detangled, but the hair is matted, and now the stylist has to work extra hard or extra time, which can be a cost to you, but also time on the stylist part to get through or to navigate your hair. The one thing that I don't want you to do, let's say you've waited a little bit and then you go to the salon and you're trying to get your hair detangled and you're like, this cost too much for me. You shouldn't have to wait until that point to say this is too much, or I don't want to do this, or then you get to this place of just cut it off because then I don't want to deal with it anymore. It's just too much. Hair becomes too much when we don't take care of it. And that's just simply it. When we don't give the hair the TLC that it needs or that it requires in order for it to grow and flourish, then we then lose interest and we cut it off. Or we just decided that I prefer a short curl or a short haircut because it just makes life easier. And there's nothing wrong with that. I encourage short hair whenever possible because I love short hair, but that's just my personal preference. As a client, I wouldn't recommend curly hair or short hair, not curly hair, but I wouldn't recommend short haircuts for you if that's not your desire. But we're not talking about short haircuts. We're talking about, are you stressing your hair out, right? I just want you to be mindful of what you're using, how you're using to detangle the hair. Because when you start to detangle or you start to stress the hair out, you're going to experience a lot more breakage. So be mindful of the tools that are used to detangle. Be mindful of the motion that you're using to detangle. Be mindful of the process that you're using to detangle. All right? Does that make sense to you guys? I hope that makes sense. Like, I really wanted to touch on this a bit because I saw so many clients who were ultimately, they were detangling at home, but they weren't detangling enough or well enough. And so their hair develops these little knots almost. And or I've seen the clients whose curl pattern is really tight or a tightly wounded curl, and their hair tangles very quickly. So in this case, then I would recommend to you is wash your hair once a week, saturate the hair with conditioner, and detangle. Or you can simply put conditioner on the hair prior to washing the hair. What that does, it helps you really kind of get the moisture into the hair, and it makes it easier for you to detangle. But don't use a denim brush to detangle your hair. Don't use a finer tooth comb. So many clients have used the finer tooth, like the pick comb or the tail comb, to detangle their hair. Don't use those particular tools in an effort to detangle your hair with ease. It won't happen. So always use a wider tooth comb. Make sure that your hair is super moisturized, super hydrated before you start your detangling process. So even if you put conditioner on the hair and let it sit for a few minutes, and then you go in and you wash your hair, that should be great for you. That should make things so much easier for you. So also, I get the girls that use the same tail comb that they will use to kind of create or lay down their baby hairs, detangling their hair. That's a no-no. The teeth are way too fine to detangle your hair, and you're going to find you're going to put a lot more stress on the scalp when you're using a finer tooth comb to detangle your hair. So, you guys, I want you to really think about or be mindful. Think to yourself, on wash day, have your stuff, your tools ready and together. Think about wash day. What am I using in terms of products and tools? And how am I using my tools to achieve these results, right? And because you are thinking, or you're conscious, or you're aware of the tools that are needed, the tools that are necessary, and how you're doing it, it just makes it easier for you, the client, to understand that I've taken my time, I've used the right products, I've used the right tools. Hey, that's half the battle, right? That is totally half the battle. So I know this has been a lot, and I want you guys to really think about how you're detangling and if you're stressing your hair out. Because ultimately, you start stressing your hair out, you're stressing yourself out, right? All right, you guys, until the next episode, have a blessed week, and I will catch you on the next one.